4 more of the best whiskeys of 2022, and only 2 will advance to the final round. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Hutch. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the world of whiskey. So today we have round 2 of our Whiskey of the Year blind battle series. It's gonna be awesome. We've got 4 more incredible whiskeys from 2022 to put head to head right now. We already did the first 4 in the first Whiskey of the Year video, so if you haven't seen that, be sure to go check it out so that there's no spoilers. I'm about to reveal which moved on. So that was Discovery Series number 8, and the Larceny Barrel Proof C922 ended up moving on. Today, from these 4 whiskeys, we're gonna pick 2 more that are gonna move on and go head to head with those, and then we will see what comes out on top as the best whiskey of 2022 that I've been able to get my hands on. So what are we looking at here? Who are the contenders today in this blind matchup? We've got Barrell Vantage, the yearly release from Barrell this year, 3 different oak finishes, including a toasted American oak, which has garnered a lot of attention and seems to be a crowd favorite. I enjoy it a lot. Then we've got the Knob Creek 18. So this is the most expensive bottle I own, a pretty limited release this year to celebrate 30 years of Knob Creek, and the oldest thing I own as well. Then we've got the Craig Barrel Proof batch B522. So by all accounts, this was a very solid batch. It's the only one I was able to buy this year, but really enjoying it. And then last but not least, we've got the Larceny Barrel Proof batch B522, which if you've seen my review of this, you know that this has so much caramel candy on it that kind of blows me away. So we'll see how that stacks up in the matchup. Without further ado, let's get these bottles off the table and dive into the blind matchup. Okay, so we've got the blind set up now. I have no idea what order these are in, and I'm eager to dive in. Just before we do that, do want to say thank you so much for all the support in 2022. Looking forward to an awesome year in 2023 with the channel. If you haven't subscribed already, would love to have you as part of the community. And if you're liking all the content coming out of the channel, hit that like button too. All right, let's do these 4 awesome whiskeys and see which 2 will advance. Starting with Glass A here on the nose. Okay, that's a good amount of caramel. And vanilla, caramel and vanilla surely coming through here. There's some spice though, maybe a little bit of like cinnamon. Maybe a bit of honey. Tiny bit of an ethanol kick. So you can tell the proof is pretty high. The proof's pretty high on all these, except for the Knob. The Knob Creek is 100 proof, I think, yeah. But this is just a sweet, gooey caramel, vanilla, a little bit of spice. Really nice experience. Maybe a little bit of a dark cherry kind of fruit going on there too, something to deepen up some of those tones, but that caramel's really jumping out of the glass. All right, let's go to Glass B now on the nose. Okay, so that's a little bit different. Maybe a little bit lighter. More in that honey direction, I think. Not jumping out of the glass quite as much. It's more subtle as a nose. Maybe a slight touch of like citrus to go along with that honey. Some vanilla underneath too. Touch of wood spice going on here. Pretty nice. I would definitely say that that's a much more subtle experience. I had to dig a little bit more than Glass A, so Glass A is jumping out of the glass a bit more. Let's go into Glass C here though. Oh, okay, so now we're really turning up the oakiness. A lot more spicy oak. Some vanilla and a little bit of, I think that's kind of like a roasted nut, roasted almond. Yeah, definitely like a roasted almond kind of note coming through. But a lot of oak and a lot of wood spice. Very peppery too, kind of tingling on the nose. So that one, again, we got A that jumped out with the sweet caramel. We've got B that's a little more subtle, maybe citrusy. C now, lots of oak and spice. All right, on to Glass D. Whoa, okay. That's the most different. There's a citrusy, floral, fruity quality to it. A little bit of wood spice here as well. But that honey might be a peaches note kind of thing going on here. Peaches, cream, honey. So B and D kind of have a similar vibe going on. I think this Glass D just really turns up that sweetness. It's almost a little bit tart with its sweetness, but pretty inviting overall as well. All four of these noses I'm enjoying. None of them are lackluster, to be expected with amazing whiskeys on the table here. Nose is one thing, but palate is sort of a whole other level of evaluation. So let's go in from A to D now on the palate. Glass A. Cheers, everybody. Wow, that has more spice than I was anticipating. More of a barrel spice and cinnamon. Really nice, but that caramel vanilla wave really comes through in the mid palate, and the finish is this nice sweet lingering caramel, kind of just like caramel sauce that you would drizzle on top of a sundae, like that kind of smooth caramel experience that I'm really enjoying. I think the spiciness threw me off there because there's a little bit of a wood spice punch and barrel and cinnamon that fades into that caramel. So that's also my first sip of the day, so that's probably why it's a little bit punchy too, but you can certainly tell there's a good amount of proof there. All right, I'm gonna get some water, and then let's move on to Glass B here on the palate. Cheers. Wow. I mean, in many ways, that is quintessential bourbon. That has caramel and vanilla for sure, so a similar DNA to Glass A, but a little bit more of an oaky presence there, a little bit more chocolate even maybe, so like a little bit deeper notes. Brown sugar, I really gotta point out that the brown sugar jumped out for me. Brown sugar, oak, maybe a little bit of honey that came through on the nose, but I feel like the palate went much darker and base tones than the nose gave off, which, since it was a more subtle nose, to really feel it warm up my palate and envelop the palate, very nice. Starting off strong here. I'm not exactly sure which one is in the front running there, but they're both really solid. Let's get some more water. And then let's move on to Glass C here. Cheers, everybody. Now, I think we have stepped down in proof a little bit, but that is a very smooth experience, full of oak, wood spice, good amount of cherry, maybe a touch of citrus along with that, and then this roasted almond note really comes through for me. So it's not quite super peanutty. It's got a nutty quality, but it's more of like a hazelnut or almond that really jumps out. So that one is very smooth as well, and warming and well-rounded on the palate, and my experience of the mouthfeel is pretty strong there. So wow, another really nice experience. Each of those, I mean, obviously they're great whiskeys, so they're showing off a little bit, but these are all great. All right, let's move on to D now and evaluate that. Okay, so Glass D on the palate. Wow. Yeah, that's the most different by far. That has that peaches quality, citrusy, it's woody, so it's not woody and it's not oaky in the same way that Glass C is. Glass C is like hefty, dark oak with like spiciness. This one is like a lighter oak, almost just a woody presence to it. It's not as rich, it's more of a little bit spicy, tart, like I was saying on the nose, that comes through. There's a honey and citrus kind of quality sitting underneath it with some vanilla, and that peach note comes through. There's even a little bit of a floralness, sort of fruity and floral, but overall very pleasant. I just think it's clearly the most different. It's actually the least like traditional bourbon that I would, say in this whole lineup. It's actually jumping out as more far afield in terms of its flavor profile. So that is certainly an interesting whiskey. All right, so I've given you a little bit of a breakdown of each of these. I'm gonna go back in reverse order and then do some A/B testing to really figure out my favorites here, but gonna fast forward through all of that so that we can cut to the chase and figure out which two are moving on. All right, everybody, I think I've officially got my order here of what I consider the most special and, exceptional whiskey here, all the way down to fourth, which is still fantastic stuff. So let's get into it with fourth place here. This one, along with what came in third, were just a little bit below the other two. This particular glass, which is going to be Glass D is in fourth place for me. It just has a little bit of that really nice flavors. I mean, it's got the citrus, it's got the peach, it's got the floral quality. There's a tartness, and I think the woodiness here, while nice and interesting and unique, veers more toward just straight up wood rather than like a nice rich oak. So Glass D comes in fourth, and that is, okay, so that's the Barrell Vantage. A very nice bottle of whiskey. It is around 90 bucks, so a lot of people hesitate on Barrell because of that. Again, this is a really nice blend, packed full of flavors that I have never really had on any other whiskey. That's kind of what Barrell does best. They do unique and interesting blends and finishes that do add value because you're not going to taste much else like it. I think maybe in this blind, the other three just had a more traditional bourbon quality to them that I love. So, this isn't all bourbon here, and it is a blend of whiskey, so it kind of stood out as the different one and maybe had some elements that weren't my favorite. All right, let's move on to third place here. Again, for me, this one was just sort of in that realm of the Barrell, a half step below the others. The nose didn't jump out as much. It had a really nice palate to it, the traditional bourbon, some good caramel, vanilla, all those traditional flavors, lots of good brown sugar there. It just sort of lacked what the other two had, which was sort of a unique element that I felt really jumped out of the glass. So let's see what Glass B here is. All right, wow, that's actually the Larceny Barrel Proof. Wow, okay, so I really, in my head, I try not to like bias myself and guess too much, but based on how much caramel I was getting on Glass A, I thought that that was probably the Larceny because that was what I remembered most about that product, but it certainly has the caramel and vanilla. It just didn't jump out of the glass as much as the other two. So, all right, let's just do it. Let's just go into the last two here. We've got Glass A and Glass C for me. Which one's gonna come out on top? Today, I am putting Glass A as the winner. Glass A just really jumped out of the glass with that caramel, deeper, darker notes, very gooey, a little bit of honey in there too, just rich on the palate and very, very easy to sip on with a good spice punch underneath it all. And then Glass B I have in second place. This is the oaky roasted almond. I'm guessing this is the Knob Creek 18. It's really, really nice, and it's very distinct because of how much oak and wood spice it has. So let's see if that's true. Glass C here. Yeah, that's the Knob Creek 18. What a special profile that is. I mean, it really stands out with the oak, the roasted almond hazelnut aspect, where it's less of a peanut that you get from some of the younger Knob Creek and really transitions to these like darker roasted nut notes for me. And then there's this cherry element to it as well. It's just clearly different and special when you sip on it. It's got so much age presence to it. And I think the 100 proof really helps it be still smooth and not too spicy and barrel presency on the palate. Just enough of that to really give you a little bit of a kick, but not much beyond that. And then that leaves Glass A, which is the Craig Barrel Proof B522. Man, really stood up in this blind matchup. I did not remember that much good caramel on it, and then the extra spice kick you get on the palate. It's really, really nice. I'm just gonna revisit this real quick. Man, now that's just got everything you want. It's got the spice, it's got the honey, it's got the vanilla, it's got the caramel, it's got the barrel char, and hey, it's hard to beat. Craig Barrel Proof is a tough ask to beat in terms of blind matchups. I found that, man, this 12-year-old stuff, even if you get a batch that most people consider not that great, it's still gonna stand up really well to most other whiskeys you're gonna get in a given year. All right, everybody, that means the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof B522 and the Knob Creek 18 are moving on. Sort of a surprise upset, because in my head, I really thought the Larceny Barrel Proof was something I appreciated more than the Elijah Craig, but I guess with time that has really opened up. Oh, it is so good. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this blind matchup. What did you think would probably win for me? Have you had any of these whiskeys? Let me know what you thought of them and what tasting notes you're getting and where they rank in your list of 2022 whiskeys. So we're gonna have a final matchup now between Knob Creek 18, Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. We're going to include the Discovery Series 8 and the Larceny C922. Looking forward to that next video, doing the final four and figuring out what's my top whiskey of 2022. Until I see you guys again for another video, all I can say is keep drinking good whiskey and cheers.